Mitch McConnell is vowing to crush the Tea Party everywhere. Let me give you a little more background on this. Of course, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell gave an interview to the New York Times in which he predicted that the GOP establishment, the GOP aristocracy, as it were, was going to destroy the conservative insurgent Tea Party groups that are attempting to unseat at least 3 incumbents. But what's fascinating is that McConnell did not limit, of course, his comments to those 3 races, one of which is targeted at his seat. No. In addition, he decided that he was going to say, I quote, this is from the New York Times, published on Sunday, I think we are going to crush them everywhere. I think we're going to crush them everywhere, McConnell said. I think they are not going to have a single nominee anywhere in the country. Okay, well, that's one senator from Kentucky. Let's bring in another one. I am pleased to be joined now by Senator Rand Paul. Senator, thank you very much for calling in.
Good morning. Glad to be with you.
So we just came off of CPAC over the weekend. A lot of discussion about where the GOP, where the Republican Party is going. Conservatives, grassroots, Tea Party on one side, increasingly it seems the establishment on the other. These comments, I know you may not be able to be too free in your commentary on Mitch McConnell's comments, on Senator McConnell's comments, but what do you think about this vow to the New York Times to crush the Tea Party everywhere?
Well, I think the Tea Party still is a huge part of the Republican Party and really the energy of it. When I'm at CPAC, what I feel is the energy of the Tea Party, also the energy of youth. But, the Tea Party are simply people who are concerned with debt and deficit, and so are most Republicans. I think sometimes what separates some of the grassroots from some of the establishment is, tactics on how they want to exploit this. And I think in the middle of a campaign, sometimes things are said that may not be intended. But all I can do is say that I still believe the Tea Party is a big factor and will be a big factor in the election.
Now, do you think that vigorous primary contests with the clash of intra-party ideas that will bring is a constructive thing and more importantly, perhaps, is helpful in the ultimate goal of actually winning back the Senate and restoring constitutional and conservative government through elections in this midterm and then, of course, in 2016? And do you think that that's a good thing, or do you think that that's...
Yeah, for the most part, primaries, I think, are a good thing. I think we need to try to keep the debate on a civilized plane so we don't damage each other so much that the Democrats take advantage. But a good, healthy debate over the direction of the party, over our political philosophy, over what needs to be done to, rein in and out of control government up here, it is and can be a healthy discussion. I had a spirited primary, and out of it, I think, came stronger. But also, we did unite after the primary, and I defeated the establishment candidate, but he endorsed me within 3 days. All of the U.S. congressmen from Kentucky that are Republican endorsed me. So really, while there can be contention, it can't be so bitter that in the end you want the Democrats to win or you don't show up in the fall to win if your guy didn't win in the primary, because there truly is a difference. For all of our squabbles up here, there is a big difference between Republicans and Democrats, and there are so many issues, prevailing wage, right to work, tax issues, that truly Republicans are for reducing taxes, all of them, for reducing regulations, all of them, just to differing degrees and differing extents.
Senator, I wanted to ask you about this notion of contentious, by the way. You've pointed out that some have mischaracterized your views on foreign policy. I have to say, even here doing the show, I've gotten a fair amount of heat from people who just love to throw around the term neocon as their way of disparaging anyone who even points out just what's happening, if you just even want to discuss what's going on in Ukraine. So I'm no stranger to people mischaracterizing the discussion, but I wanted to hear from you yourself. What do you think right now of what's happening over there, and also the administration's positioning vis-a-vis this conflict, which seems to just be getting worse from our perspective every day?
I think we should take a strong stand that we should unite Europe and the West to condemn Putin's actions. We can't allow, I think, in a civilized world, just countries to willy-nilly invade other countries and invade their sovereign territory. So, yes, absolutely, we should respond. Putin should be isolated from the civilized world for his actions. What we can do to help the situation, there probably isn't a military option. I mean, even the most hawkish in our party are not advocating military involvement over there. But I think that through expansion of oil and gas exports, we can make Europe less dependent on Russia. Russia also has to realize there are going to be great economic consequences for this action. If Ukraine becomes Syria, it will be a disaster for Russia. They depend on exports, and 80% of their oil and gas goes out through Ukraine. The other thing they have to realize is if Ukraine becomes like Syria, that one teenager who doesn't like Russian overlords can disrupt the pipeline. So there will be chaos over there if they try to occupy and maintain it. If they only maintain control over Crimea, it still will tilt all elections towards Ukrainian Western sympathies because there's about 2 million voters in Crimea, and all of the elections have been close in recent times. There won't be another Russian-oriented politician win in Ukraine if Crimea no longer votes. So really, he's cutting off his nose in spite of his face.
Now, there's supposed to, of course, be an inherent bipartisan attitude towards, people say politics, stops at the water's edge. We know that's not true. But on this issue with Ukraine, it seems that there's a recognition of the complexities and the issues that would arise for any administration under the circumstances. But I wanted to sort of transition to another area where I do see some bipartisanship, and it's one in which you are taking a lead, and that is prison reform, reforming sentencing, also reforming prisoners' rights, having them restored after they have served sentences for nonviolent crimes. That is, it seems to me, clearly a bipartisan issue. You've reached across the aisle. You're working with Attorney General Eric Holder even on these. Are you getting a sense that people are starting to recognize that this is opening some doors and things? President Obama always talks about getting things done. This is an area where it seems both sides are able to come together. Is there the support that you would like to see for this? Do you think that this is going to be essentially a beachhead for more initiatives like this that should have been done years ago, in my opinion?
Well, as a Christian, I believe in redemption, and I believe in a second chance for people, particularly people that have really injured themselves through drug use and haven't injured others. So nonviolent drug crimes, I think when you've served your time, you deserve a second chance, and this means employment, but it also means the right to vote. And so I have been pushing this issue. This had been an issue that had predominantly been pushed by Democrats, but now there are Republicans and Democrats. I'm also for fairness. I mean, we have people being put in prison for 55 years for a nonviolent drug crime, and then you can kill somebody in Kentucky, get life in prison, and be eligible for parole in 12 years. So really, I'm for keeping the dangerous people away from the rest of us, punishing them, if anything, more severely, making more space for them by getting kids who made mistakes out of jail and back into the workforce, and just acknowledging that there ought to be a second chance. And I think this may be new for some Republicans, but there have been many over the years. I know I've had many conversations with Richard Viguerie over what we should do in prisons and reform and humane treatment within the prisons. But I think there are a lot of conservative Christians who favor this.
Senator, I have one last area I wanted to touch on with you while we have you, and that is on the Fourth Amendment, the breadth and scope of the NSA surveillance programs. I know this is an issue near and dear to your heart. You're leading the charge on this as well. What is the latest on your efforts to try to get more transparency with regard to the metadata collection program, and also just how would you gauge the Obama administration's willingness to, I shouldn't say embrace change because they'll never embrace change, but to accept that there need to be some limitations put on this kind of spying? Is the momentum with you and those who are standing with you on this issue?
I think so. And one way I like to look at it is right now with the whole situation in Ukraine, it appears as if we didn't have very good intelligence as to what Putin was doing. I think we have to do a little more spying on the Russians and a lot less spying on Americans. And with looking at Americans' records, it should be done with a warrant. You should ask a judge. A person's name should be on the warrant, and your phone records, your credit card bills, your emails, those are private things that belong to you and you have an ownership in. Think of what's on your Visa bill. They can tell what books you read, whether you gamble, whether you smoke, whether you drink. Do you see a psychiatrist? Do you take medications? That could also all conceivably be on your Visa bill, and really that's personal. They should not look at that unless a judge has probable cause, names you, and puts a warrant out. And we just shouldn't collect all Americans' records. And I think sometimes it distracts us from the things we should do, and we do and should spy on our adversaries. And we need to spend more resources doing that than looking at American phone records.
Yeah, we somehow are able to collect everything except the intelligence that would let us know that an invasion of Crimea is coming. And this is
the Sonarif boys. We didn't collect anything on the Sonarif boys, and it turns out that really there was some information to be collected there. And so I think we're mistaking the things we need to do and wasting a lot of times on things that intrude on our privacy.
I'm going to get some heat from my former CIA brethren, but I got to call it like I see it. Senator Rand Paul, thank you very much for calling in. Great talking to you. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.